Why do kings fall at the height of their reign? Why do generals lose despite having stronger armies? The answer is simple: they stood in the wrong places. They allowed themselves to be surrounded by poison, disguised as safety. This video will show you the 6 deadliest places Machiavelli warns against. Places that will destroy your power, your influence, and even your life, if you are foolish enough to remain in them. History is filled with men who dreamed of power yet were crushed not by armies, but by the places they allowed themselves to dwell. Niccolò Machiavelli warns us, destruction is not always born from enemies abroad. It often festers in the company we keep, the halls we walk, and the circles we inhabit. Tonight, I will guide you through the 6 most dangerous places no ruler, no leader, and no ambitious man should ever step into, if he wishes to survive. In every court, every office, every circle of influence, there exists a place more dangerous than a battlefield. It is not a land marked on maps nor guarded by soldiers. It is the court of the flatterer. Here, men perish not by steel, but by sweetness. They are conquered not by enemies, but by friends who whisper only what pleases them. A prince, a leader, or even a simple man with ambition must fear this place above all others, for it destroys not from the outside, but from within. The flatterer approaches like a servant, but he is truly a master of deceit. He studies your pride, your vanity, your need to be admired. He learns what melody your ego dances to and plays it, until you no longer hear the truth. He praises your smallest achievements, as though they were divine miracles. He tells you that your faults are virtues, your hesitations are wisdom, your cruelty is strength, and in time, you begin to believe him. The moment you do, you are lost. Every ruler in history who fell swiftly did so because of 2 poisons: the first, his pride; the second, the men who fed it. The flatterer's weapon is not the dagger, it is agreement. Agreement with your every thought, every decision, every illusion. When all you hear are voices that tell you you're right, you stop seeing the danger ahead. You become blind to the very forces preparing your ruin. I have walked among princes and seen this disease consume them. One man, confident in his supposed genius, dismissed every warning because his courtiers assured him he was unmatched. Another believed himself beloved by the people, for his flatterers reported only cheers, never whispers of discontent. When rebellion came, he was shocked, unable to comprehend how hatred had grown unseen. Yet the truth had always been there, only buried beneath flattery's velvet lies. The danger of flattery is that it transforms a wise man into a fool without him ever realizing it. It steals your clarity, your self-awareness, your capacity for judgment. It makes you dependent on comfort instead of truth. And once you prefer comfort, you are no longer fit to lead, for leadership demands pain. Pain of hearing the harsh truth, pain of facing your errors, pain of correcting them. The flatterer removes this pain, and in doing so, removes your strength. You may think yourself immune, that you are too clever to be deceived by flattery. But know this, even the most cunning mind has a weakness, and that weakness is the need to be admired. The wise ruler does not deny this weakness. He masters it. He allows no man to praise him beyond what is reasonable. He seeks counsel not from those who please him, but from those who challenge him. He rewards honesty, even when it wounds his pride. The flatterer, however, senses when a leader values truth over comfort, and so he adapts. He disguises himself as a loyal advisor, cloaking his deceit in clever humility. He will speak one small truth to earn your trust, then follow it with 10 lies that feed your vanity. He will criticize others to appear balanced, but never you. He will position himself as your greatest supporter, yet in truth, he supports only his own survival. When the winds change, he will abandon you without hesitation, for his loyalty was never to you. It was to your power. The court of the flatterer is not confined to kings and princes. It exists wherever authority exists. In business, in politics, in friendship, even in the mirror. For often, the most dangerous flatterer is the voice within you, the one that says, "You are always right." This voice whispers that your failures are never your fault, that your mistakes were the fault of others. It comforts you with excuses, dulling your ambition and corrupting your reason. That inner flatterer is the deadliest of all, for you cannot exile him. You must conquer him. Understand that flattery is more seductive than truth, because it requires nothing from you. Truth demands humility, self-examination, and the courage to change. Flattery demands only that you listen. And the more you listen, the weaker you become. The ruler who prefers flattery to honesty builds his kingdom on sand. When the storm arrives, no one warns him, for all his men are paid to smile. He falls without resistance, and none grieve his fall, for they have already pledged their loyalty to his successor. The wise man keeps a distance from flatterers as he would from vipers. He invites contradiction. He honors those who speak hard truths. He observes carefully the faces of those who praise him. Are they sincere, or do their eyes flicker with calculation? A ruler's greatest power lies not in commanding armies, but in distinguishing between loyalty and manipulation. The moment he fails to tell the difference, he becomes a puppet dressed as a king. Every age, every court, every kingdom is filled with those who prefer to comfort power rather than strengthen it. They are poets of deception, masters of pleasing words, destroyers of truth. They will never draw a sword against you, yet they will deliver your downfall with a smile. The only defense is vigilance, the courage to listen to those who disagree, the wisdom to value honesty above praise, and the strength to endure the discomfort of truth. A man surrounded by flatterers may seem powerful, but in truth, he stands alone in a crowd of liars. They will raise him high with words, and when he has reached the peak of arrogance, they will let him fall. The sound of their applause will turn to silence, and the ruler will realize too late that the sweetest voices were the ones that led him to ruin. There is a chamber that destroys more rulers than war ever could. It is not filled with assassins or traitors, but with advisors who cannot decide. It is the council of the indecisive, a place where power drowns in endless words, where courage withers beneath the weight of hesitation. Here, men discuss everything and resolve nothing. Here, rulers lose not by action, but by the paralysis that comes from too many cautious minds. A prince who fears mistakes more than inaction is already doomed. I have seen it many times. A ruler gathers his advisors to debate a threat at the borders, a rebellion stirring, an opportunity to strike. They speak for hours, weighing every possibility, fearing every consequence. By the time they reach agreement, the enemy has already moved, the rebellion has grown, and the opportunity has vanished. The council congratulates itself for its prudence, but prudence without execution is cowardice in disguise. Indecision is a disease of the mind that spreads through the hearts of the powerful. It begins with fear of error, fear of criticism, fear of taking responsibility. The prince says, "Let us think carefully," and thus begins a cycle with no end. Each man adds another layer of uncertainty, another condition, another question. The fire of action cools to ashes. When finally a decision is made, it is made by necessity, not by strategy. The ruler reacts instead of commands. Know this: hesitation is the luxury of the weak. The world belongs to those who move first, not to those who speak last. When opportunity appears, it does not wait for you to consult your counselors. It passes like lightning, and by the time you lift your hand to seize it, it is gone. The cautious man calls this wisdom, but it is merely fear wearing the mask of intelligence. I once observed a prince who sought advice from 10 men, each wiser than the last. Yet wisdom became his curse. One warned of the dangers of war, another of the cost of peace, a third of betrayal, a fourth of reputation. Every man saw a different danger, and together they convinced their ruler that every path led to ruin. So he did nothing. He waited, and while he waited, his enemies advanced. When his city fell, his advisors fled, each claiming, "I warned him." Thus, the prince perished not because he lacked guidance, but because he had too much of it. A ruler must understand counsel is useful only if it leads to action. Advice that delays is as deadly as advice that deceives. Listen to your counselors, but let their words end where your decision begins. Let them inform you, not paralyze you. For when too many voices speak, the voice of command is lost. Leadership demands clarity. It is not born from endless discussion, but from the courage to choose when the choice is uncertain. The indecisive are masters of excuses. They disguise their fear as patience, their confusion as thoughtfulness, their weakness as prudence. They believe that by delaying, they avoid risk. Yet in truth, they choose the greatest risk of all: to allow events to decide their fate. The decisive man acts and shapes the future. The indecisive man waits and becomes a victim of it. In the court of the indecisive, every decision is postponed until tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week becomes next month, and soon the chance is gone forever. The ruler then blames fate, the stars, or bad luck, when in reality it was his own hesitation that invited disaster. Indecision is not neutrality. It is surrender without battle. Consider the general who faces the enemy across the field. The bold strikes while the enemy hesitates, and thus wins before the battle begins. The cautious waits for the perfect moment, the flawless plan, the complete certainty that never comes. His army grows restless, his morale weakens, and when he finally attacks, he does so with doubt in his heart. Doubt spreads faster than courage. Once it enters a leader, it infects all who follow. A prince surrounded by indecisive counselors must treat them as a doctor treats disease. By removing the infection before it spreads, he must not reward hesitation, for it breeds more of it. He must not allow long deliberations when swift action is required. Let the wise speak, but let the ruler decide. The moment leadership becomes a debate, authority dies. The great danger of indecision is that it feels safe. It allows one to avoid blame, to say, "We are still considering," to pretend that waiting is wisdom. But power is not preserved through waiting. It is preserved through will. Every empire that hesitated when it should have acted became food for its enemies. Every ruler who delayed out of fear ended up losing what he sought to protect. The decisive man will sometimes err, yes. But error can be corrected, hesitation cannot. A mistake can be redeemed by courage, but a missed opportunity never returns. In the game of power, hesitation is the most unforgivable sin, for it kills quietly, without drama, without warning, until one day you wake and realize your control has slipped away. To command others, one must first command oneself. This means silencing the voices that say, "Wait," when your instinct says, "No." It means trusting your judgment when all others hesitate. It means understanding that leadership is not about perfection. It is about direction. Better to act imperfectly with resolve than to do nothing in the name of wisdom. For the world respects action, not hesitation. The man who moves shapes destiny. The man who waits watches it pass him. By there exists a poison that spreads faster than betrayal, more quietly than flattery, and more fatally than ignorance. It is weakness, the weakness of spirit, of courage, of conviction. And no ruler, no commander, no leader can afford to dwell among those infected by it. This place, this circle of the weak-willed, appears harmless at first. It is filled with agreeable men, polite men, men who smile and nod and shrink from conflict. But do not be deceived by their civility. Their fear will become your failure. Their hesitation will become your defeat. When a ruler surrounds himself with the weak, he loses not only their strength but his own. For courage is contagious, but so is cowardice. The faint-hearted cannot be made brave by orders, nor can loyalty be forged in men who tremble at the first sign of risk. A single timid voice in your circle will whisper doubts into the minds of others until all begin to question, to hesitate, to retreat. What begins as caution becomes paralysis. And while your enemies act with conviction, your counsel drowns in uncertainty. The weak-willed man is a master of excuses. He will tell you, "Now is not the time. The risk is too great. Let us wait until we are ready." He will speak as though he cares for your safety, your image, your stability. But in truth, he cares only for his comfort. His cowardice hides beneath a mask of reason. He calls it prudence. He calls it moderation. Yet beneath his words lies the simple truth. He fears loss. He fears blame. He fears standing alone. And fear is the enemy of greatness. No empire has ever been built by those who feared what might happen. History remembers only the bold, the decisive, the daring. Weak men remember nothing. They are too busy surviving, too afraid to act, too willing to kneel. The ruler who keeps such men close is already surrounded by defeat. Their advice will always favor the safe path, which is merely the slow road to ruin. They will whisper that caution preserves power, when in truth it only delays collapse. I have seen princes destroyed not by their enemies, but by the counsel of the fearful. One such prince, a man of promise and vision, hesitated at every turn because his advisors begged him to wait for the right moment. That moment never came. His rivals seized what he hesitated to claim, and when the smoke of his downfall cleared, those same advisors fled, swearing they had always warned him. Weak men do not share in defeat. They escape it by abandoning those they served. A wise ruler must therefore recognize weakness not in words, but in spirit. The weak-willed are easily identified by how they respond to challenge. When danger arises, they look to others to lead. When success is near, they speak of risk. When boldness is required, they speak of patience. They drain the courage from a room without speaking a word. Their fear spreads like a shadow, slow, quiet, inescapable. Understand this: the company you keep becomes your mirror. If you sit among the weak, you will begin to think like them. You will weigh every action twice, then thrice, until you convince yourself that stillness is wisdom. You will feel your instincts dulling, your ambition softening, your confidence fading beneath their influence. And once the strong begins to think like the weak, the kingdom begins to rot from the throne downward. The weak-willed man is not always cowardly in appearance. Sometimes he wears fine robes and speaks eloquently. He may present himself as calm, rational, but inside, he is ruled by fear. Fear of conflict, fear of offense, fear of loss. Such men are dangerous because their weakness looks like virtue. They disguise passivity as peace, indecision as diplomacy, surrender as humility. The ruler who cannot see through this illusion will mistake weakness for wisdom and pay for it with his crown. Power demands proximity to strength. The leader must surround himself with those who act, who decide, who stand firm when others tremble. For in the presence of strength, even doubt transforms into resolve. The army that follows a brave commander becomes brave. The court that serves a decisive ruler becomes decisive. The circle that surrounds a strong mind is infected by courage just as easily as the weak are infected by fear. When a leader's inner circle is weak, his empire becomes fragile, for every man mirrors the tone of his master. If the ruler tolerates fear, he teaches it. If he excuses hesitation, he spreads it. The strong man cannot build greatness with trembling hands beside him. He must be ruthless in removing weakness, for the company of the faint-hearted is a slow poison that kills ambition before battle even begins. The weak-willed speak much of loyalty, but when the storm arrives, they vanish. Their devotion lasts only as long as safety does. They praise you in comfort and abandon you in crisis. They fear enemies, they fear allies, they fear failure, they fear success. To them, everything is a risk, and in fearing every path, they end up walking none. They live by hesitation and die by regret. And anyone who follows them shares that fate. There is no greater danger to power than those who lack the will to defend it. A ruler must measure not only the wisdom of those around him, but their courage, for courage is the foundation of all virtue. Without it, loyalty, intelligence, and talent crumble at the first test. A coward may be clever, but his cleverness serves no purpose. A fearful advisor may speak truth, but his truth leads nowhere. A hesitant ally may mean well, but his delay costs you victory. In the art of power, the weak-willed are not your friends, not your servants, not your allies. They are your undoing. Their presence corrupts decision, their silence kills momentum, their fear robs you of greatness. The ruler who seeks to endure must keep company with the strong, not the safe, with the daring, not the doubtful, with those who, when faced with uncertainty, choose to act rather than hide. Among the many dangers that surround a ruler, none is more treacherous than betrayal. Armies can be defeated, fortresses can fall, but nothing destroys a prince faster than those who once knelt before him. The shadow of betrayers is not a place built of stone. It is a space that follows power itself, lurking in every throne room, every council, every friendship forged by ambition. It is the invisible kingdom of deceit, where loyalty is a mask worn by those who wait for the right moment to strike. The ruler who believes himself safe among friends is already exposed. For betrayal never comes from the stranger. It comes from the familiar hand. The enemy beyond your walls seeks your land, but the betrayer beside you seeks your place. He studies your moods, your weaknesses, your trust, and he feeds them until you depend upon him completely. When the time comes, he does not need to raise a sword. He merely withdraws his support, and your empire collapses beneath its own weight. I have seen kings who feared their enemies more than their allies, and for that reason, they died. The wise ruler fears both, but in different measure. The enemy makes you vigilant, the betrayer makes you blind. For betrayal is not sudden, it is patient. It begins with flattery, with service, with small acts of loyalty designed to build your trust. The betrayer weaves himself into your plans, your confidence, your secrets, until removing him feels impossible. And when he strikes, it is always at the moment when you rely upon him most. Every ruler must understand that loyalty is not a permanent state. It is a currency that must be continually earned and tested. Men are loyal not by nature, but by interest. When their advantage shifts, so too does their allegiance. To expect eternal loyalty from others is to misunderstand human nature itself. A wise prince does not hope for loyalty. He engineers it. He binds men to him through fear, reward, or necessity. He makes betrayal more costly than obedience. But even then, he remains alert, for no chain can restrain a man whose ambition exceeds his fear. The betrayer often hides behind gestures of devotion. He praises you in public, defends you in meetings, and stands beside you in battle. Yet his loyalty is a performance. He studies not only your words, but your silences. He learns how to appear indispensable. He tells you what others dare not say. And in doing so, he becomes your mirror, until you see yourself in him. That is the moment he owns you. The shadow of betrayers grows thickest in times of peace. When the sword sleeps and wealth increases, men begin to dream of taking more than they are given. The servant wonders why he should serve. The advisor questions why he should advise instead of rule. The friend begins to envy the throne he once admired. Betrayal is born not in poverty but in comfort. It is the luxury of those who have forgotten fear. A prince who cannot read the signs of betrayal walks blindly toward his fall. The signs are always there, hidden in small changes. A man who grows silent after once speaking freely. An ally who flatters less and questions more. A soldier whose loyalty grows louder than before. True loyalty is quiet. False loyalty must always be declared. When a man insists too much on his faithfulness, you must begin to suspect that he is rehearsing it. Yet the ruler must never show suspicion openly. To accuse without proof is to reveal fear. A fearful ruler invites the very treachery he dreads. Instead, he must observe in silence. Let the betrayer believe he has fooled you. Let him move freely, speak freely, act freely, until his ambition exposes him. Then strike without hesitation, without warning, and without mercy. For betrayal is a weed that cannot be pruned. It must be torn from the root. But there is a deeper truth, one that most rulers refuse to face. Betrayal is inevitable. Every man in power will one day be betrayed. No matter how wise, how just, or how beloved you are, someone will seek your place. The purpose of wisdom is not to prevent betrayal, but to survive it. The wise ruler plans for treachery, as the general plans for war. He keeps his enemies close not to trust them, but to watch them. He divides their loyalties so that none can unite against him. He allows small betrayals to expose larger ones, using deceit to uncover deceit. The shadow of betrayers cannot be escaped, only managed. It exists wherever power exists. For ambition is the natural companion of power, and where ambition lives, betrayal breeds. To rule is to walk among daggers, smiling as though unaware of their presence. Those who rule with open hearts do not last long. Those who rule with open eyes endure. Remember that betrayal often begins not with hatred, but with disappointment. A man who feels overlooked, undervalued, or constrained becomes fertile ground for treachery. It is often not the enemy who turns, but the once loyal ally who feels forgotten. A wise ruler therefore manages loyalty as carefully as he manages armies, rewarding the faithful, acknowledging the capable, but never letting any one man grow indispensable. For the moment a subject becomes too powerful to lose, you have already lost him. In the art of survival, trust must be measured, not given. The ruler who trusts everyone is naive. The one who trusts no one becomes paranoid. The balance lies in calculated trust. Trust that expects deceit. Trust that prepares for betrayal even as it accepts loyalty. Power is not preserved by love, nor by faith. It is preserved by vigilance. And yet, betrayal is not always a failure. Sometimes it is revelation. It reveals who was truly loyal and who merely pretended. It reveals the structure of your power, where it is strong and where it is vulnerable. The betrayal you survive makes you wiser, harder, sharper. The betrayal you ignore destroys you quietly, until the knife at your back feels like an old friend's embrace. There exists a place more deceptive than the court of flatterers, more dangerous than the council of traitors, and more intoxicating than wine. The marketplace of public opinion. It is here that rulers lose themselves beneath the applause of the masses. It is here that strength dissolves into vanity, and purpose into performance. For no man can lead who lives to please the crowd, and no ruler can hold power when he bends to every voice that praises or condemns him. In this marketplace, truth is not the measure of worth, noise is. The loudest is mistaken for the wisest, the most adored for the most righteous. Those who dwell here learn to crave the approval of the people, as a drunkard craves his drink, endlessly, foolishly, destructively. Yet Machiavelli warns, he who governs by applause will one day be destroyed by it. The crowd that cheers for you today will hiss at you tomorrow. Their love is as fleeting as smoke, as unstable as the sea. The ruler who seeks their constant affection builds his throne on sand. For the public's favor is never born of loyalty, but of appetite. They love you as long as you feed them victory, spectacle, and comfort. Deny them one of these, and their devotion turns to disdain. The prince who listens too closely to their praise becomes deaf to truth. He begins to adjust his principles to their whims, thinking he is securing his power, when in fact he is surrendering it. I have seen rulers fall not because they lacked wisdom or courage, but because they sought to be loved by all. They abandoned strength for sympathy, justice for popularity, command for compromise. They mistook the fleeting applause of the mob for stability, and when the mob turned against them, as it always does, they found themselves powerless, abandoned, and despised. The crowd does not love individuals, it loves reflection. It adores those who mirror its emotions, and despises those who challenge them. Thus, to please the people is to become their echo, not their master. The marketplace of public opinion seduces even the strongest. It promises immortality through reputation. It whispers that your image is your power. But image without substance is a mask that eventually slips. Those who rule by reputation are slaves to perception. They spend their days guarding not their borders, but their public image, fearing criticism more than invasion, rumor more than rebellion. This fear corrupts them. They begin to govern not by principle, but by spectacle. Every decision becomes a performance, every act a display of virtue meant not for the good of the state, but for the applause of the crowd. Yet the crowd's applause is not a reward. It is a trap. The more you seek it, the more you depend on it. You begin to censor yourself, to hide your strength, to soften your truths. You trade respect for affection, and once the crowd learns that you need their approval, they own you. They will raise you up, but only to watch you fall when you cease to entertain them. To rule effectively, you must learn to stand apart from their noise, to listen without obeying, to observe without worshipping. The public loves the illusion of power more than power itself. They want leaders who make them feel strong, not leaders who are strong. Thus, the wise ruler must learn to appear concerned with their desires, while quietly pursuing his own designs. Show them what they wish to see, but never let them see what truly guides you. For the ruler who exposes his intentions to the masses invites their interference. And the more the people think they understand you, the easier it becomes for them to turn against you. In the marketplace of public opinion, rumor is stronger than fact, emotion stronger than reason. It takes only one whisper to undo a lifetime of achievement. The people will not weigh your deeds, they will react to your image. Therefore, protect your image not through flattery or display, but through results so undeniable that no rumor can stand against them. Silence the mob not with speeches, but with victories, for nothing earns respect more permanently than success. Understand that the crowd is both your foundation and your threat. They are the sea upon which your ship sails, necessary for motion, yet capable of drowning you in a single storm. Do not despise them, but do not depend on them. Guide them as a sailor guides the tide, by anticipating their moods, not by obeying them. The people are like children, they cry loudly for what they want, yet often do not know what they need. A ruler who caters to every cry becomes their servant. A ruler who disciplines their desires becomes their master. There is a dangerous comfort in public admiration. It blinds the ruler to the harsh truths of his rule. Surrounded by applause, he begins to believe himself invincible, untouchable, adored, and when dissent finally comes, it shocks him like thunder. The ruler who has spent his reign chasing popularity is unprepared for hatred. He cannot bear the silence that follows when the crowd grows weary of his act. Thus, the marketplace that once gave him power becomes the stage of his humiliation. To lead is to accept being misunderstood. The strong ruler does not explain every action or justify every command. He understands that greatness is rarely appreciated in its own time. The people may curse him today, but history will judge him by what he built, not by who cheered. Those who live for the crowd die with it. Those who live for purpose outlast it. In the art of ruling, one must remember that admiration fades, but authority endures. The ruler's task is not to be loved but to be obeyed, not to entertain the people but to direct them. Let the marketplace buzz with opinions, praises, and condemnations. You are not a merchant selling virtue to the masses. You are the architect of order. The crowd changes with every sunrise, but power belongs to the one who never bends to its wind. There is a fortress stronger than any made of stone, and more dangerous than any battlefield. It is the fortress built by fear. Many rulers retreat into it when the world grows treacherous, believing that solitude will keep them safe. They build walls not of brick, but of distance, separating themselves from allies, friends, and even their people. It is a fortress of isolation, a prison disguised as protection, and while its gates keep enemies out, they also keep wisdom, loyalty, and truth from coming in. I have watched rulers grow paranoid with power, surrounded by deception, haunted by betrayal. They begin to trust no one. What begins as caution soon becomes solitude. They stop seeking counsel, for they fear manipulation. They stop listening to truth, for it sounds too much like criticism. They believe that distance will grant them control, that silence will protect them. Yet isolation does not preserve power, it weakens it. For power thrives on connection, on the flow of information, on the loyalty of men who feel seen and heard. Once those bonds are severed, authority begins to rot from within. The prince who hides behind walls believes he commands from above. But in truth, he commands from ignorance. He no longer knows the true condition of his realm, the hearts of his soldiers, the whispers of his court. He sees only what his fear allows him to see, an illusion shaped by distance. The more he isolates himself, the more he becomes a stranger in his own kingdom. His advisors learn to speak what pleases him. His people learn to speak nothing at all. And so, while his fortress stands tall, his power crumbles silently beneath it. Isolation gives the illusion of control, but it is merely a refuge for those who have lost confidence in their strength. The ruler who cannot face the noise of others hides from it, and mistakes his silence for command. Yet true command is not silence, it is mastery of chaos. To lead is to confront deceit, to navigate disloyalty, to move through the noise with clarity. The fortress of isolation spares you from confrontation, but it also spares you from truth. It creates comfort, and comfort is the death of vigilance. Every fortress becomes a tomb when its gates are never opened. The ruler inside feels safe but grows blind. The world outside changes, alliances shift, enemies adapt, opportunities appear and vanish. The man who isolates himself from all counsel soon finds that his decisions no longer match reality. His commands are outdated, his actions misinformed, his followers disillusioned. Those beyond his walls begin to doubt his strength. They whisper that he has grown fearful, detached, weak. And once the world believes you are weak, it no longer needs to attack. You will fall without battle. I once witnessed a leader so consumed by mistrust that he allowed no one near him. He spoke through messengers, ruled through intermediaries, and trusted only his walls. When rebellion arose, he received false reports of loyalty and calm, for no one dared bring him bad news. When his enemies struck, he learned of it too late. His fortress had become his coffin. He died protected from every danger, except the one he had created himself. The ruler must understand men obey not only power but presence. A distant ruler becomes a rumor. His soldiers fight less fiercely for a man they never see. His advisors serve less loyally a master who never listens. Isolation erases human loyalty, for it removes the bond between ruler and ruled. Fear may command obedience, but distance breeds resentment. The people will endure cruelty before they will endure neglect. For cruelty, at least, acknowledges their existence. The wise prince does not confuse solitude with strength. To be alone in thought is wisdom. To be alone in rule is ruin. Reflection is a tool, not a fortress. A ruler may step away to think, but he must always return to the world to act. His strength lies in balance, the ability to maintain distance without detachment, authority without arrogance, and caution without fear. Isolation feeds the illusion that one is above human weakness. Yet even the greatest rulers are bound by the same truth: power depends on others. Armies fight for you, counselors advise you, people accept your rule. Once you remove yourself from them, you remove the foundation of your throne. The ruler who refuses to trust anyone must eventually trust fate. And fate is rarely kind to those who abandon men for walls. There is also a subtler danger within isolation: the decay of the mind. Deprived of challenge, contradiction, and discourse, the ruler begins to believe his thoughts are flawless. His ideas go untested, his strategies unopposed, and his pride unrestrained. What begins as wisdom hardens into arrogance. He mistakes his echo for truth, his solitude for superiority. This is how intelligence becomes blindness and power becomes folly. In isolation, even loyalty transforms into threat. Every messenger seems a spy, every friend a rival, every ally a conspirator. The ruler becomes haunted by ghosts of betrayal that may not even exist. He builds more walls, trusts fewer men, and in doing so, becomes the architect of his own downfall. The very thing he feared, betrayal, finds him through his own mistrust, for isolation breeds discontent in those who are shut out. A ruler who isolates himself ceases to rule. He merely presides over his own retreat. Leadership requires presence, a mind among minds, a will among wills. To lead is to engage with imperfection, to face opposition, to wrestle with the unpredictable. The fortress of isolation offers none of this. It offers peace, but it is the peace of still water, motionless, stagnant, and ready to rot. It is tempting to believe that distance grants purity, that by separating oneself from the chaos of men, one remains uncorrupted. But corruption does not come from others, it comes from within. When the ruler closes himself off from challenge, he becomes the very tyrant he once despised. He rules not through wisdom, but through fear of hearing what he does not wish to hear. And when fear rules the ruler, his downfall has already begun. Power, my friend, is not lost in a single day. It fades in moments of weakness disguised as wisdom. Those who fall do so not because they lacked strength, but because they wandered into places that drained it. The court of flatterers blinded them. The council of indecision slowed them. The circle of the weak infected them. The shadows of betrayal pierced them. The marketplace of public opinion enslaved them, and the fortress of isolation buried them. Each of these places whispers comfort, yet each conceals destruction. The art of survival, therefore, is the art of awareness. To see the trap before you step into it. To know that not every friendly smile is loyal, not every opinion deserves your ear, and not every retreat is safety. The wise ruler walks among these dangers as a serpent through grass, alert, silent, prepared. He listens, but never absorbs. He trusts, but never depends. He moves with calculation, not emotion. You cannot avoid danger by hiding from it. You master danger by understanding it. Those who navigate power with open eyes rule long. Those who close their eyes in comfort fall quickly. The 6 places I have shown you are not mere locations. They are conditions of the mind, prisons built from fear, ego, and ignorance.